So due to this delay, we gained 2 more persons. I'm happy with that. Can you go ahead? So I'm going to be talking about the fracture of layer ceramics from the mechanical point of view. And in the title is the word tailoring. So I would like to come to the end of the talk that you will see what we mean by that. So first, the motivation of why we use. It's okay. When we use layer, or we're interested in these layer structures, you can find many examples of applications where layer ceramics or ceramic layers are combined together to reach a certain functionality. You have some very small multi-layer varistors or piezoelectric actuators for common rail injection systems, or you have in your cell phone these printed circuit boards made of layer materials, layer ceramics, together with metal electrodes. So in many cases we find application of layer structures. And the problem that we have with ceramics, very general, is that we have a low fracture toughness, and we also have something which is called strength and variability. So you cannot really find a strength value for your component if it's made of ceramic. You talk about the probability of failure. The reason for that is the presence of defects that you can have inside the ceramic or at the surface, having different sizes. So that's giving you different strength values. And the consequence is that you can have some of the piezo actuators where you can find some others showing some cracks even before going into service. And or your mobile phone having a crack running from one level to another and destroy the functionality. So the motivation is that we need to ensure, let's say, structural integrity if we want to keep the functionality of these systems. And there are many works trying to mimic the nature, so you find some natural systems where the fracture in a brittle-like, let's say, natural system does not occur like straight and catastrophic, but the nature uses some kind of layer structure to bifurcate cracks, stop cracks, consume energy, etc. So our motivation was to try to apply some of the concepts in order to have real engineering layer structure and architecture. Now, if we go to the next slide, thank you. There are many different possibilities where you can combine the layers. So the battery is not working. I think there are all the problems we could have, we had them already. You never know. At least the chairman will not be angry. So I said before that there are several possibilities. I will not go into that. Very important is when you ask the question, do you want to have a weak interface or a strong interface? In our cases, you think an application would not want to have a piezo actuator which laminates or something like that, so we want to keep this kind of integrity. So we're thinking, what can we do to increase the mechanical properties of these crack rod resistance, for instance, of these systems? So we would say we can try to play with residual stresses. Residual stress is something that you can generate in your laminate when you combine, let's say, 2 materials having different thermal expansion coefficients. So when you see the ceramic, you need high temperature, and you cool down, and from a certain point you develop different, you have different thermal expansion coefficients. And if you are able to ensure a strong interface between the layers, you will get some differential strain, which gives you elastic strains in the layers, and that transforms into residual stresses. Unfortunately, you do not only have compressive stresses, which would be good against propagation, you could have also tensile stresses. And there are several ways to generate this strain mismatch. I will not go into this. Maybe you're familiar with these Gorilla glasses. So in that case, you have in the outer layer, they induce some chemical reaction, and you get some compressive stresses. And this is one example. In our case, we do not want to have compressive stresses outside. We wanted to have compressive stresses in the internal layers to be more like flow tolerant. So you can imagine in ceramics, the surfaces are very critical. You can have small cracks, defects from handling, polishing, etc. So we want to try to arrest the propagation of these defects and make the material flow tolerant using these compressive layers. And let me show you just one example how this mechanical behave, this kind of system. You have material A, material B, and you do some thermal shock. And what you can see here is that on the top, you can get very elastic strength, and they open. During thermal shock, cooling down rapidly, you open up cracks, defects on the surface. That would cause a catastrophic failure in a monolithic ceramic. But in this case, due to the compressive stresses, you get this crack arrest. So you can guarantee, prevent the failure in your system. Second possibility, if you say, okay, how does it react under bending? And that was thinking of showing a small video here where you have a notch specimen, you put some bending stress, and you will see, if the video works, you will see how the crack will propagate. Let's go. Let's go to the directory. Let's go to the directory. Number one. The one, number one. Yeah. So you will see when you apply some bending at the crack, at the notch chip, you will induce high stress concentration. And if this stress intensity factor overcomes the toughness of the layer, then you all know you will get propagation of the crack. Okay, if it doesn't work, I think sometimes the video is important to really see that you can stop cracks propagating in the ceramic, which is something not very useful. When the crack propagates in the ceramic, normally causes catastrophic failure. So, it's fine. We are not so far with the technology. We should keep doing material science at very structural level. It's okay if it doesn't work. It's fine. Let's close it. Let's go back to the presentation. Let's go back to this presentation, please. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you will see, thank you. You will see here from the, no, it's fine. No problem, no problem. We continue because we don't have the time, but this is what you will see. You will see a crack popping in and arresting here, and this is the second video where we overcome this point here. We are over there, and we can see that the crack, due to the compressive stresses, will not propagate straight through, but it will bifurcate in the compressive layer. My colleague Olga was modeling yesterday using stress energy calculatory conditions that you can have to have this bifurcation. So residual stresses are important, thickness of the layer, etc. So with this, we were happy to see that we can arrest cracks due to compressive stresses. And the idea is if you want to, let's say, optimize some designs, you want to understand what are the conditions for these crack arrests. So without going too much into detail, I think everybody is familiar with, let's say, R curve or an apparent fracture toughness. In this case, we model the material property, the fracture toughness of the multi-layer system, based upon the fracture toughness of individual layers, and the contribution of the residual stresses. If you do this computation, you get something like this. So through the layer thickness, you see that the fracture toughness is not constant, but it varies based upon the residual stresses. Here's tensile stresses, so the toughness is decreasing as you enter in the layer. And then when you enter the compressive layer, you get something like R-curve effect, and then very, very stiff, so you can arrest the crack here. So if you think about trying to explain this here, you have a notch, then you apply a certain stress, which we describe with the stress intensity factor that we apply, and very simple criterion from Griffith, when this is overcomes, then you get the spontaneous crack propagation here. It will not propagate straight through, because at a certain location, this condition is no longer fulfilled. So the crack must stop there. So with this very simple model, I say, we can understand under which condition the crack arrest. And with this, you can take a look here that it seems that let's say, the geometry of the layers may play a role. If you have a very huge tensile layer, your toughness will be decreasing and decreasing. So there is room for optimization. And without going too much into detail, we were thinking of what will happen if we just, modify the distribution of layers, not just changing the thickness of each layer, but keeping constant the volume ratio between materials. The volume ratio is giving you the level of residual stresses. So we do not touch that. We keep the volume ratio constant. We have the same level of residual stresses, but we modify the architecture. And using this simple model, we can predict, let's say, values relatively high for these ceramic laminates. These are the models, and then we were thinking of using some experiments for that. And we'll not go into detail, but we fabricated some structures where you can have, within one single sample, different regions where the layers are disposed in different location. And it looks like this. So using this model, you can see we put some cracks or some notches there. And then we did the bending test. We could observe that in all regions, we will get some crack arrest, like in the case of this thermal shock or bending, because we have very high compressive stresses. But what was very interesting was to see that in this particular disposition, the fracture will always occur through this central region here, as you can see here. So this is very, let's say, easy to understand when we apply our model, and we model the crack resistance of the different regions. And we understand that there are somehow weak regions and strong regions from a mechanical point of view. With this, if we push up our design and we try to increase the amount of layers on the compression, for instance, and we put it very close to the surface, we'll get values, experimental values, very relatively high for ceramic systems. So at this point, this is what we say that we can tailor the fracture. We would like to avoid the fracture. In many cases we cannot do that, but at least you can tailor and predict within your structure that sometimes is given due to the functionality which regions are going to break, which not. This is something that you can put into the design. So with this, I would like to thank you, first of all my colleagues, because this is the work of a bunch of people who have contributed to this, and I thank you for your attention, and sorry about the technical problems. Thank you.